So they all moved to Pennsylvania, and it took them actually a few years to start meeting again, but they had their first baptism, thank you, on Christmas Day in moving water in Philadelphia. And so now, which is Germantown, Pennsylvania, it was out in the country. Today is just a suburb of Philly. Some of the things that I guess you could say are unique about our church is that we're one of the 3 historic peace churches. The Mennonites, the Quakers, and the Church of the Brethren are 3 traditions that have always tried, or at least on paper, have committed to nonviolence and non-resistance, reconciliation at all costs. We are non-creedal, which means we don't have a creed, which sounds probably crazy to most people, but we do believe in following the New Testament can't be boiled down into just a few words. But the New Testament is important to us. The life of Jesus is more important, and the Sermon on the Mount is probably a great place to challenge yourself for the rest of your life. The Church of the Brethren hold together both the Word and the Spirit. So we do that by discernment, prayer, and trying to live together with one another. It's a community effort. And we also believe in the priesthood of all believers, and so that includes, I'm not the only minister in this congregation, that's for sure. I'm just trained to help lead it, that's all. Globally, we live out our faith in different ways. Oh yeah, that's a painting of the baptism in Schwarzenau. Our church is larger than just here in our country. Some things that I think our denomination is known for is that we were originating members of the World Council of Churches, the National Council of Churches. We started organizations like the CROP program and SERVE. We had a volunteer organization where young people basically decided to spend a period of time doing volunteer work. And they offered this alternative service, and when the country started getting behind conscientious objection and starting to put programs in place for alternative service and selective service, they actually looked at Brother Volunteer Service as a model, and that's how they kind of based, at least at the beginning, what Peace Corps and AmeriCorps is would look like for them. And I'll tell you a story too about Dan West. I don't know if that name is familiar to you, but after serving as a conscientious objector in World War I, he was serving then in feeding people in the Spanish Civil War. And as he was dishing out cups of milk, he looked at himself and said, what if we didn't just give him a cup, but a cow? And so he came back home and talked to his farmer neighbors, and they sent cows overseas. And now that ministry, which started as a ministry in their church, is Heifer International and is independent, nonprofit, global enterprise now, I guess. And we do disaster response work around the world, mostly in our country though, and those projects, I think other organizations are really good at getting in there quicker, but after they pull out, our disaster response efforts, I think, are pretty long-lasting to help. We're still putting houses together in Kentucky and Tennessee and Ohio and North Carolina for sure. And then I just want to show you this map. There are under 100,000 members in the United States, but there are global congregations and projects and missions. Our Nigerian sister church has over 750,000 members and is vibrant and growing despite the conflicts with the Boko Haram. And then just locally, I just want to point out this building, which you may have seen in the Antietam battlefield. I was looking up some Google facts today, and apparently it's the most historical church building in the U.S. military history. I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds good. And basically, it was used as a threshold between the two fighting parties during the Antietam battle, and actually served as an embalming station for the soldiers who needed. Rachel knows a whole lot more about this. She's on the board, but you needed an amputation or whatever, you can go there and get one, I guess. And right in front of that building is where the truce came for the ceasefire. I just think it's a pretty important location. Our congregation here is just a traditional worship. We represent a wide range of political and theological views, I believe. We try to be focused by the leading of the Spirit the best we can, living in the world the best we can together, just like every other place of worship. This is our children's program that was this last Sunday, where we had superheroes afraid that a new hero in the world was going to take their jobs over. And so we got to talk about Jesus in that way. And it was just so cute to see all those kids get excited. We put our energy in outreach, community engagement, nurturing families, and spiritual formation. And we have community meals we like to eat, just like you guys probably. We focus on a big highlight was Vacation Bible School, which we shared with some local churches here in Beaver Creek. We had about 60 children here in this building for that. And last year we did celebrate 175 years of ministry here in Beaver Creek. And I learned a piece of trivia today that I think is important. I think it's fascinating, actually. About 40 years ago, Sanmar children came here for worship on a weekly basis for about a 10-year period of time. I just think that is incredible to think that they had about 20 children here in worship that were in that community, and the connections that we've had. I know that members of this church have been employed by Sanmar and connected in other ways too. So, and of course, being right across from Kardikini as another connection too. So, anyways, there's lots more I can talk about, but I was only supposed to have 5 minutes, so I'm gonna sit down now. And do you have an introduction or?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Not really much. Thank you, Gabe.
Thanks so much to Gabe for sharing about the Church of the Brethren. It's always interesting to go into another congregation and learn about the faith traditions. And next month, actually, for our annual meeting, we're going to be at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints out on Mount Etna Road. And so we'll get to hear about that faith tradition as well. So thank you to Jerica and Jennifer for being here today. Jerica is the Deputy Executive Director for Sanmar. How long have you been with Sanmar?
8 years.
8 years. I mean, I know you just became the Deputy Director, but she's also directs the Jack E. Barr Center for Wellbeing, which you're going to hear a little bit more about. And Jennifer Lewis is here with us, and she is the Director of Treatment Foster Care. So I was going to tell a little bit of history of Sanmar, but Jerica's going to do that. So I'm going to leave that to her and just welcome them up here to talk. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you all for allowing us to come and share. I am not that formal, so I will try to be controlled up here, but I'm really passionate about Sanmar, and I was so excited to see Miss Mose and her sister, and just learning about the history of Sandmar, but even before my time, I remember always wanting to work at Sandmar, and it was because of the girls that came to my church is how I saw them worship with us, and I didn't really know, where they were from, but I knew someone brought them in a van, and I just knew that, somebody's making a difference in their lives, and I think it's important for us to continue to partner with churches that are right down the street from us, but also in our community, because that's what we're focused on now, being more community engaged. So I just wanted to look at the history of Sandmar, just in case some are not familiar, but also talk about the exciting future that we have. Some of you might have saw that in the newspaper, but you did have these on your tables. If you can take those home, lots of information about each program that we have. But definitely you'll stay tuned in the news for lots of new updates, and if you're ever coming past Sandmar, feel free to stop by and we can show you around what's going on. So if you think about Sandmar, we celebrated 140 years of being in our community, and actually we started up in the Bester neighborhood in Hagerstown, Maryland as the orphanage. So in the 1900s, 1927, we actually moved down to Sandmar, kind of looking for serenity and a peaceful environment for the girls, or boys and girls that were able to come in and have a place, a safe home to live in. And in 1987, we transitioned to adolescent girls. So that's where that came from, of, why the question of why did you transition from boys and girls to just having girls live in our group homes, and we kind of wanted to focus in on, we were seeing other programs and organizations support boys, but we thought that we had experience with children, and why not focus in on a specific population and hone in on that population. So we did that. In 1990, we had a house up on the hill by the water tower on Mapleville Road, and that was called the Anderson House. And that house is a 3-bedroom house. It's no longer ours, we did sell that, but it was a time that we had residential group homes down in Boonesboro, and then that little house on the hill for girls that were kind of interested in moving up, had a space to be more independent, still going to work or going to school, but just a step up from slowly moving out of the nest and going into the community. So it was a great transition for them to kind of practice that, but also having that support in place. And then in 2016, we had big shifts happen. We saw that the state of care in the nation was changing. We were seeing that children were being removed from homes, and some of them needed to have a safer space to stay. But we were seeing that ultimately they go back home a lot of times. And when you go back home, who was there to support them when they returned home? They're not only them, but also their families. And we realized that the nation was shifting towards working with families while they were in crisis, working with families to prevent children from coming into care in the first place. So we kind of followed suit. And it was not a short or easy decision. It was a long-term decision over the course of a few years. But we kind of changed our mission to kind of focus in on being preventative and family-focused and community engaged. And as a result of that, we don't have any children living on our campus, and that was from 2016. So we closed all of our residential programs and started a place-based initiative called Bester Community of Hope. You might be familiar with the green shirts and the green logo, and that program is in Hagerstown, Maryland. That's a part of Sandmar. And also the Barr Center for Wellbeing. Jack Barr was one of the former board members at Sandmar, and he helped build one of our buildings on campus, and we really wanted to keep his name alive, but also to help support people that are dealing with mental health concerns in Washington County and beyond, because a lot of people are struggling still with mental health, and they can come from anywhere. So we're excited. We're in our 7th year of doing that work. But we had 2 programs opening and then having one major program close, and it kind of shifted our work. But we thought, why not look at things upstream versus starting downstream where the crisis is happening? How can we prevent it from happening in the first place, but also intervene and work with not only the child but the whole family? And we're kind of seeing that now. We're working with not only children that come in for mental health or our community-based work, but with the whole family. So we're serving lots more, even though we're not serving people right on our campus. So we kind of, when we were making this decision, we were looking at like core values. How do we reimagine and redefine ourselves, and kind of looking at 5 core values of what that would look like for us. And we came up with whatever it takes. You know, what if this was my child? What if this was my family member? What would I want to happen? So we look at that for each program. Every time a child comes in, every time a family comes in, we think about what if this was my family member? What would I want for them? We think about doing better together, and that's really a reason why we're here today. You know, a collective impact. How can we do more with other people? There's already existing resources in our community. How can we already use those resources instead of creating new ones? So we always think about how to do things and do things better together. We think about relationships. That's our number one thing. We know that relationships matter. We know that we as individuals are hardwired to connect to other people. Doing things alone is difficult. So we think about how do we help people understand that just because you're in a program of ours, the relationship that we have, developing that rapport is number one. If that's not there, we can't move forward. So that's what we try to really focus on. And having fun is priority. We try to do things. I think Jennifer's going to talk about having Easter egg hunts and having trunk or treats and having things in the community that other people can come out and just feel like they're a part. And not think that no one can just come to Sandmar because we have girls living there, because we don't. But also, how can we just connect to each other and have fun together? And everyone has strengths. Sometimes when we're working with families, we're getting feedback from all these programs, all these communities about why they came to care or why they're coming for mental health reasons. And those reasons are difficult sometimes. But it's also important to look all throughout their story to see what the strength is. And that's what we have to build on. So we try to focus in on those core values and kind of redefine that for ourselves so that we can work better with people. So Sandmar now, what do we do now? We have 3 programs. We have the Barr Center for Wellbeing. That's our outpatient mental health clinic that is licensed by the state of Maryland. And we serve children 5 and up to adults, 105. We actually serve people that are living in Farnakidi, going across the street, seeing them through telehealth, but also serving kids. I would say we're about over half, 59% of those that we serve are children, and the rest are actually adults. So we're moving more into that space of not only seeing kids, but seeing their family members and just community members as well. We accept different insurances, we take private pay, we do some pro bono work. So if you ever have any parishioners, any community members, any family members that you have that really are needing to talk to someone, you can feel free to connect with us, and we'll do our best to connect them with the right person. We have a team of 8 therapists, and we have a psychiatrist and a psychiatric nurse practitioner. So we do that individual therapy, but we also have medication management if the person may need that as well. I would say in the last 7 years, we started this program to kind of, honestly, it was looking at whatever we could do to keep employees at Sandmar there, to keep programs alive on campus. But really, when we looked in this community and looked at the statistics, we saw that there was no outpatient mental health clinic or no larger group of people providing mental health services in this area, in the southern part of Washington County. So that's how we grew, and that's how we thought, we'll try it out and see if it works. And it did. And we were able to use the population that we had, treatment foster care, children coming in, their families, community members, but it's grown so much, and we've served 435 clients in the last fiscal year. So we're really excited. We're continuing to grow. I know a lot of people experience hearing about wait lists. That is a true issue. But we just say still call, still talk to us about what's going on, and we'll try to connect you with someone, even just to have the hope that you have an appointment. We also have Bester Community of Hope, and that's a place-based initiative in the Bester catchment area. So we're specifically looking at the Bester Elementary School area, the 1.5 mile radius around that school. And we looked at how can we support the resources that are already existing and work together to make a collective impact. So looking at the 3 domains that we have at Bester Community of Hope, neighborhoods, families, and the community, how can we integrate in just being a convener of sorts for the existing resources that are already there, and if there isn't something that is needed, then how do we support others in doing that? Most importantly, the residents, because they're the ones that are going to live there, and our program, we hope, lives forever, but we also hope that we don't need it anymore. And the community is there to kind of rally around and do it themselves. We do that through walking school bus. We have neighbors that come out in the mornings and walk the children to school, because Bester Elementary, some of the children, they don't have a school bus. So they have a safe adult to walk to school with. And we partner with local organizations, local churches to do that and come alongside them. Now, we did shift from after-school programming and things like that within the school system, because they kind of support themselves in that now. But we're trying to work towards being more of support in the middle school, E. Russell Hicks, in this upcoming year. We're also doing some work in family. So say a organization comes in and says this family needs support with food, clothing, shelter, but also some parenting skills. We have groups that come together of parents that live in their neighborhood that may have gone through one of our programs and then can support the other parents that are in their neighborhood, so that they can just knock on their door and help each other out, versus us coming in and saying, we know best. They know best, because they've learned from us if they need a little support, and then now they can help each other. So that's the ultimate goal of all of our work in Bester and all of our work anywhere, is how can we rally around those that live there to support themselves. And then I'm going to have Jennifer talk a little bit about treatment foster care.
Thanks, Jerica. Yeah. So our treatment foster care program is a small program. I have 4 case managers, I have an administrative assistant, but we all have a really big heart in our program. We serve youth anywhere from 0, like brand new babies, all the way up to 21 years of age. And some of the amazing things about our foster care program is some of our foster parents were kids that were in the orphanage. They've actually come back and serve and be a support for the youth in their home. And I think that's amazing. They know the value of San Mar, they've been through, they have that lived experience, and they're there as a rock solid support for our kids. I want to say we've been around since '92 for treatment foster care. I'm not great at numbers, that's why I'm a social worker. But I think we've been around since 1992. I'm still new to San Mar, but I worked previously with the state of Maryland. I'm very familiar with their services, their interactions, and that's kind of what drew me to San Mar itself. But we really, Jerica will kind of talk about this later, as will I. We have such a need for foster parents, and some of the statistics that really stick out to me, and I was just looking this morning, is there was almost 5,000 kids in foster care in Maryland last year alone. This year, I think it's about 4,300, but I don't know when the stats were last updated, because it can take a while and we're not through this year yet. Of those kids, many don't have a place to go. These kids will be put up in hotels. They'll be left in the hospital past the stay, past their discharge date. There are some instances where these kids will end up going home or going to the Department of Social Services and spending the night in the building, sometimes multiple nights. Again, there is such a need. This is something I'm very passionate about. There is such a need for people, even if you can't foster, having the opportunity to provide respite. Maybe, it's really nice when kids come for the weekend and they can go right home. It's like a honeymoon each time. We need breaks for our foster families. If you can't do those things, we ask that you maybe spread the news, like spread the word that we are in need of foster families. The need is greater than the supply at this time. But our kids are amazing. We do all kinds of fun things. We're trying to get the word out again that there's not just girls kept in our building and that they come out sometimes. The things you hear. But we did a community trunk or treat just back at the end of October. We had our first annual Easter egg hunt back in April of this year. Great community turnout. I think we had over 100 kids at the Easter egg hunt and well over 250 to 300 kids at the trunk or treat. And it's a safe place to go, and it's also a place to share your ministry, share your experience, just share some fun times and get to see all the little kids. We're looking at expanding out. We're wanting to do more, but I think that we want to partner. We want to get the word out. We want to share our needs and just kind of share the positives too. Because while you hear there is a need, there's also some amazing things happening, like adoptions. By the end of this month, we'll have had 3 adoptions since the fall, and we love that permanency for kids. We really want that, or to return home to their families. But we really truly want to partner with the community. I have an amazing recruitment person that can talk the ears off of anybody and would love to come out and meet your congregants. She's much better at it than I am. That's why she does that. But she'd love that opportunity to come and speak to her, just even to get the word out, to share experiences, share what we see, share those things. The other thing I'm asking of you all, we want to have families that are representative of the youth that we serve. We have anywhere from 5 to 20 referrals a day. And some of those referrals are repeat referrals. So you may see that referral once and then 3 days later again and again. We're asking if we could partner with you all. Not every child that comes into Sanmar is of the Christian faith. They may be of other denominations. They may be different from their foster family. And we're asking maybe a support person or some point of contact from each congregation, so that if we have a youth that wants to stay connected to their community of faith, that we can do that. I guess it's been about a year ago, there was a referral that came in for a young Jewish girl. She really liked everything that there was to hear about Sanmar. She was really excited, and she's like, do you have any Jewish foster families? And we're like, no. But we have foster families that are willing to learn, that are willing to do those things. And her response was, that's really great, but I want to be connected to my family, to my house of faith, my worship. And while they may learn, they may not understand everything. And that's really, to us, it's important so that we have those families that reflect the youth that we serve. So that's one big ask that we have. Just someone from each congregation that would be willing, if we reached out and said, hey, Johnny is, a member of your faith, is there someone that could accompany him to the house of worship, that could go out with him, that could be a safe contact and keep him connected? Because when kids come into care, they lose connection with so many things. They're uprooted from their place that they're used to, from their family, from their friends, and it's nice to have a steady, just something steady in their life that they can connect to. So, thank you all.
So just a few more things that we can do to support not only our organization, to be honest. I think there's lots of organizations that need this, but since we're here, we'll talk about Sanmar. We talked about foster parents and being just a resource as your house of faith, but also prayer. That's one that we can do at any time, any night, any place, and it's the most powerful thing that we can do, I think, to support us, because it's a lot of work, and workers sometimes don't get thanked enough because they're just so fast-paced, in hospitals overnight with children and staying overnight with children at their organizations. I think that's just an easy one. If you can help us and support us through prayer, I think that's a great thing. One of the things, if you are a part of a South End community church, is that we have what's called Better Together. Every month, we take a church, we take neighborhood residents, and we take our staff, and we do some type of event or betterment of the community together. Whether that be a trash cleanup, whether that be a painting of a building, but we do that together so that the community knows that a church is there to support them, and we're just there in the background to give you some funds. So if you are a part of that church or know someone, definitely connect with us so that we can put you on there to be a part of that every month. And it's not every month, we pick a different church. So if you would like to be a part of that, that would be great. One of the big things is, of course, supporting our families, but remembering that our kids that are in foster care are also from this community a lot. And that means that when they're returned to their families, what type of support do they have? They are released from DSS case management. They are released from our case management services. What does that leave them? That leaves them sometimes back in the state that they were in before. So sometimes they need that support. So if you can look at the families around you within your houses of faith, and just ask the question of who needs support. And I think sometimes we might be surprised at what we may hear. But I think if we do that, I think we might help some kids get placed in the first place. One of the things that is coming up, of course, is our independent living program. Our timeline is fast. We're thinking 18 to 24 months for this. It might take longer because it is a big renovation. What we're looking at doing is supporting, like I talked about, that Anderson house, that small 3-bedroom home up on the hill. We're going to transition our large brick building on the Boonesboro campus to 15 apartments. And this will be for young women 18 to 21, hopefully 24, but we're sticking with 21 right now. And this will be a program that will support girls with their independence. This will be girls that are disconnected. We call them disconnected youth, girls that are not working or currently in school. Unaccompanied youth, these are youth that do not have a home. And girls that are referred by our local Department of Social Services, transitioning out of the foster care system and wanting to still have that support. So it'll be a fine mix between independence, but also 24-hour support. A lot of us have had that support as you transitioned into adulthood. You had that family support network. You had a college campus. These girls that are coming from care didn't have that experience in childhood, and we don't want to put them back in that position when they're transitioning to adulthood to not have support. So how can we do that? We can have case management. We can have life skills. We can have someone downstairs 24/7 so that if there's a simple issue with a toilet in their apartment or a big issue that I need to talk to someone that is like a parent role, they're right downstairs. So that's what we want to do with this bed and breakfast hotel type setup at our campus. We want to make it beautiful. We want to make it the state of the art so they feel comfortable in having their first apartment on their own, but also having that person that serves as a parent right downstairs to support them. So that's kind of our new program. Please take a look out, pray, support us, advocate for us, be in the events that we have. Most importantly, remember that these girls will be living right down the street again. So then that means they might need experiences with believers. And they may need experiences with people that can rally around them and support them through adulthood. So they might be sitting in your pews in the next few years. So please just keep that in mind. And we hope to be sitting right next to them soon. And I just wanted to keep a space for any questions that you might have about any program, new ideas, new anything about the new program as well, because it's a work in progress.
I know that through all that you guys do, because you've led me to learning about trauma-informed care, and I know that trauma-informed care is embedded through everything that you do, but not everybody really knows what that is. Can you share a little bit of what that means for you guys?
Yeah, so trauma can be something that is self-defined. It could be as difficult as someone going and serving a war to having some verbal abuse in childhood. And we try to focus in on what does that person identify as trauma for themselves. And if we're going to be a healing community, how can we work with whatever trauma that person is facing to kind of rally around them and support them in understanding what that trauma is, naming the trauma, and then working around to support them in whatever they need. That may be mental health, that may be supporting them and getting into someone to talk to. And in mental health, there's different categories of that. You know, we have church member support, that support through mental health, but also having a licensed clinician, that you can do that too. It's a partnership. So always leading and having that in the back of your mind that this person has experienced something, and not what's wrong with you per se, but really what happened to you, and why is that impacting the way that you're behaving and your thoughts and your processes of how you're getting to this point of behaving. So just always keeping that in mind. We do have another community event that we always have community events every year to speak to how we can work together as a community, but having that trauma-informed lens. So that next one will be March 22nd at Maryland Theater. So please take a look out, and we'll have those flyers soon. Any other questions? Yes?
When do you plan on having your independent living center set up in the Boothroyd area?
Mm-hmm. So our idea is 18 to 24 months. It is a very old building, very old brick building. We are imagining renovating the entire campus, that one first, but also we need to move everybody who's working in that building out into our other buildings. So it's a very quick turnaround that we would like to do that, but I would say 2 years. Any other questions, you guys, you can always email us, call us. We are right up the street at that brick building. Thank you so much.
Someone asked a question after I answered.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Someone asked a question, I forgot to address it. So while we're done with questions, if you see on your pews, there are some hinges on the ends. And I didn't say anything about our practices here. Our ordinances in the Church of the Brethren are anointing, baby dedications, of course, baptisms, usually at teenage-ish years. And the way we practice communion is actually historically has always been coupled with foot washing as we relive the Last Supper. And so the way this sanctuary was built, actually, there used to not be a chancel. There's a whole bunch of history about how the church used to be, but anyways, still to today, we still sometimes use the sanctuary as a place to have love feast. And what happens is, basically the first pew you can flip the back to flip around, and then the middle pew would just kind of be like a tabletop. And then you'd have two benches basically facing each other, where you'd have your simple meal together in the sanctuary, and then you pass the basin and towel around under the table to wash each other's feet after or before the meal. So yeah, that was just something somebody asked me. I thought, well, that's an interesting thing that's unique to this church. I don't think all Church of the Brethren did it exactly that way, but yeah, the pews are pretty landmark to this building.
Okay, just the final words are, I just want to say thank you to Jerica and Jennifer for being here today, and to Sanmar for being so engaged in the community. They really brought in partners of all different organizations throughout the community when they made these major changes back in 2016, moving toward being that out in the community and being more upstream. And HARC was proud to be a part of that, and we're still proud to be partners with Sanmar in any way we can, and with Bester Community of Hope. Those folks at Bester Community of Hope have embraced several of our refugee families that live in that area and given them such amazing support. So I'm thankful for that as well. So any way we can continue to partner, and if you want either of these women or others from Sanmar to come out and talk to your congregation, they're happy to do that as well. So Thank you so much for being here, and thanks to all of you. I think we're good. Have a great day.